Hello YouTube, this is Amazon here, bringing you the last of the Wargame European Escalation archives, where I'm taking you through the various units of Wargame and giving you a brief summary of the situation to use them in and whether you should unlock them or not. Okay, so in this final episode we'll be doing the infantry of NATO. And we'll start off with the REP French recon squads. So they only have a submachine gun of the Mat 49, so this is a pretty bad weapon, so they won't do very well in infantry on infantry combat. They'll almost certainly lose unless they have a clear numbers advantage. Their anti-tank grenade is actually quite a good one if you look at it. Its range is low compared to others' bazookas, but it has a good amount of AP power and it's got enough rounds. And the concussion grenade as well. It's very accurate, so could help them a bit, but overall wouldn't hold any hopes. And they've got very good optics as well, which is quite impressive. So yeah, these guys are probably the cheapest recon infantry you can get. So these are quite good for spotting an enemy that's using ATKMs, where your recon vehicles would be destroyed by them if they got into seeing them or just doing a bit of spotting. Also, their good AT frags might make them quite good for little ambush of units in the rear. And so let's have a look at the vehicles they've got. So first of all, they've got the VAB, standard French carrying vehicle, lightly armed with a Browning, and it only has one frontal armor, but it's very fast and it can go very far. So it's good for sort of carrying infantry deep into the battle, but not in around the flanks. You can also equip them with the Puma helicopter and the slightly better Puma, the H variant, which gives you a bit of extra speed. So yeah, these are good for dropping behind enemy lines and quietly spotting stuff, and they're decent at ambushing if you can get close to it. But if any infantry will probably take them out. Then you can upgrade to their better variant, the Recon FAMAS. These guys are equipped with the French FAMAS rifle, quite a good rifle, good accuracy. They don't have too much ammunition for it, so supplies could be a problem if using them behind enemy lines. But their weapon is upgraded to the LRAC bazooka, so it's got a better range than the grenades of 701 meters. Is more accurate and boasts AP power of 11 rather than 10. However, they only carry 6 of them compared to 8, so the grenades will do more damage overall, but their bazooka will do more sort of damage at range, and they keep their concussion grenades. I think that's the only difference between them. So the regular RPs cost 25, so you're paying an extra 5 more for some better infantry fighting capabilities and a bazooka. I'd probably say that's a good deal. And they come in the same range of vehicles of the VAB and the Puma. Now we've got the American ATKM Dragon teams. They've got the sort of standard American M16 rifle. This is probably average. Gives them a decent infantry fighting capability, but they can be outranked by better units per pact. They're equipped with the Dragon ATKM. It's quite a basic one because they only cost 15, so you're not expecting a lot. It's got a good damage of 10, but they only have 6 missiles, and the range is quite poor. Some of the better pack tanks have a gun that could equal this range, and they have a sort of standard frag grenade. So yeah, overall this is your keep anti-tank unit, very keep at 15, but just remember the accuracy is low, so you might need to pay a bit more to make sure they're vetted enough that it will hit. There are transport options, being from the USA are numerous. You've got the M113 upgraded to the M113A3, so you get better speed and range. You can also get them with the Bradley. This is a pretty expensive option because you're now paying 60 for them, and they're a bad unit, but the Bradley is a good vehicle. It's actually quite ironic that its ATKM is better than the infantry it's carrying. So you can go for the sort of keep transport that you can spend a bit more to get it going a bit faster. You can also get them in the Huey as well, upgraded of course to the Blackhawk. I'm not really sure if you'd use this keep it infantry in helicopters. I guess the Hueys keep enough and fast enough it could carry them behind enemy lines, I guess. Could be a decent enough ambush unit, I guess. I mean, it's got enough damage, and you know, if they capture a few enemy supply trucks, they might have enough missiles to do some trial and error attacks. Who knows? But basically, they're sort of keep infantry. Now you can upgrade them to the 80 km Dragon. These guys have the Dragon 2 missile, and that's compared to the basic one. As you can see, slightly more damage and slightly more accuracy. So quite a you know, a slight improvement for a 5-point extras. Apart from that, there's no difference between them, and they have the same range of transport options available to them. I'd probably go for the Dragon 2 personally, because you know 20 is still or 15 to buy the infantry is still pretty cheap compared to the 10 you're paying for the basic dragons. So I'd probably spend an extra 5 more just so I have a bit more accuracy, and the increase in power is a nice touch as well. Then we've got the 80 km Milan French infantry. Now these guys are a bit more expensive again at 20, but as you can see, their Milan F1 is a better weapon. It has a better range and does more damage than the Dragon 2. Apart from that, however, you are paying for it in a bit in the fact that their weapons are less accurate and hold a lot less ammunition. So these guys will be quite bad. Infantry fighters, you're mostly paying for the Milan squad. So I guess these guys aren't too good because their rifles aren't as good, and you're paying, and the Milan is a bit better, but then it costs a bit more as well. So the Dragon 2s are probably more cost effective. The F1 have quite a narrow range of vehicles. You can either buy them with the VAB or the sort of AMX 10P with the autocannon, and you can't combine the two. You have to buy them separately, taking up 2 slots, which is important. Or you could go for the 80 km Milan F2. So let's have a look at these guys. Their rifles are a lot more accurate and hold the same amount of ammo. More ammo indeed than the Dragon 2 teams, and they're more accurate. So when you pay an extra 5 for the 80 km Milan F2, you're getting a better assault rifle than the American 80 kms. So they'll be better infantry on infantry, and their 80 km is quite a bit better, because now it's got 6 accuracy and 15 damage. So this is a pretty damaging 80 km. And they again have the VAB and AMX options available to them. So overall, the French 80 kms are more expensive than the American ones, but they're better. Because remember, the Milan I probably wouldn't go for the Milan F1s just because they're got a really poor rifle. I'd probably just stick with the Milan F2s and maybe the 80 km Dragoon 1s if you want to mix up your 80 kms. Let's see, now we've got the BGS West German reconnaissance squads. Got very good optics, and they only cost 15. Although they only have the basic armored personnel carriers, which is quite slow. They don't have any faster options available to them. And although their assault rifle is quite good, it's quite accurate. It doesn't have that much ammunition, but they probably do the job quite well. They've also got the sort of combination of AT and frag grenades that the sort of French recon have. I'm not sure. The German recon is cheaper, but it's a lot slower. I'd probably go with the French in this one, just because for sort of infantry recon, you can't have it in a battle because it's just too vulnerable, and its weapons don't have any range. So you sort of need it to be fast, and they don't have a fast vehicle option. But it is cheap, so if you need some good outpost infantry, these guys are probably the best. Then we've got the basic French rifle squad, the Chasseurs. These guys only cost 5 for the infantry. Although you can sort of tell why, because it looks like they've got a bolt action rifle, which means these guys, they're a rifle squad, but they're going to lose to pretty much any other rifle squad, or even basic enemy infantry. Although they do have that Sarpak rocket launcher. It's good damage, not bad accuracy, and 6 rockets. They've also got the frag grenades, so these guys are pretty much quite cheap. They're probably best used as a sort of a weapon to throw at the enemy. These guys, don't expect too much out of these guys. They'd probably be a decent ambush unit, and they've got the VAB, so they could get behind enemy lines with a bit of patience to do some ambushing, but as again with the recon squad, these guys are going to die fairly quick. Well, they have a better class of vehicles, which they got the VAB, the AMX, and the Puma, rather than the recon squad. They didn't have the AMX. Something to note. Then you've got the Sociers from FAMAS. Now these are sort of upgrade on the rifle squad, similar to how the REP went to the REP from FAMAS. You got the Sociers to the Sociers from FAMAS. They've got the FAMAS rifle. These are a very good infantry unit. They only cost 10, which is pretty cheap when you think about it. Their FAMAS rifle lets them hold their own, and with the 2,400 rounds you get, these guys can fight for quite a bit. They've also got the LRAC bazooka, which is a pretty good one. And these grenades will do a fair amount of job as well. They've got 8 of them, and they're fairly accurate with them. So these guys are actually pretty much the best NATO rifle squad you can get, just because they've got this really powerful bazooka that can do a lot of damage to packed tanks. Although I think that their production numbers might be limited a bit, and I guess as the Sociers, they have the same variety of vehicles: the VAB, the AMX, and the Puma. Then we have some airborne forces, so Delta Force. Now these are pretty expensive unit at 30, and they can only ever be transported in helicopters, so these guys cost a lot. But their equipment is some of the best in NATO. They've got the 10 accuracy, HE power 3, 2,400 round Car 15, so it's an upgrade on the M16. They've also got the Carl Gustav rifle, very accurate, standard range, good AP power of 12, 6 rockets, and they've got the concussion grenade as well. So these guys are probably the best. If the Sociers from FAMAS are the most cost-effective infantry, the Delta Force are among the best 1-to-1 infantry. Transport, they've got the Huey and the Blackhawk, as well as the Chinook, if you want them. I'm not really sure what the Chinook's got going for it, apart from the fact they can carry them a lot further. So you'd use the Chinook if you want to get them really far behind enemy lines, and the Blackhawk if you want to get them there fast, I guess. But yeah, these are sort of the ultimate 1-to-1 infantry units. They'd still use the Spetsnaz, but they'd decimate any other infantry unit, and they are a very good ambushing one as well. Then we've got the Ferns Napper, the German special forces. They can be carried in the Fuchs, which is the very speedy transport, 105 kilometers an hour, very nice indeed. Or the Dornier 205 transport helicopter. That's, it's quite slow for a helicopter, but it's still quite, it's faster than the Fuchs, but it costs twice as much. For them, they've got the Key 3 assault rifles, the sort of standard rifle of the Germans. Although it does look like they've got a bit of an upgrade on accuracy and HE power, so they're still better than regular German infantry, so I think they'll do quite well against most packed infantry. They've got the AT frag. This is again a very close quarters frag. They can that's the thing. These frags, they do more damage. Actually, no, they do slightly less damage than the bazooka, but they can carry more ammunition, so they can do more damage over time without supplying. But their range is reduced, so you have to get a lot closer to the enemy to throw them. They've also got the sort of another frag grenade as well. So yeah, these guys are quite good. Very mobile, I'd say. That's their big advantage. They have 2 fairly mobile transport options open to them. But they're a competent unit, I'd say. Then we've got the Fusiliers. This is the British rifle squad. They've got the L1A1 SLR. Good accuracy, but doesn't do a lot of damage. Its ammunition's not bad either. Bazooka. So this is pretty much your standard infantry unit. At 10, they aren't as good as the Sociers from FAMAS. Although they do have the British range of vehicles. So you've got the Spartan at 5, which is your keep option, and you've got the highly mobile. The Sacrosanct is the basic option. The Spartan is the more expensive but faster option, and then you've got the Lynx transport helicopters, which are very fast, especially the Lynx 887. pretty much the fastest helicopter you can get, and it's got a few rocket pods for some fire support as well. But yeah, the Fusiliers are basic infantry. Then you've got the Green Jacket Recon Squads. They're identical in terms of firepower to the Fusiliers, but they cost twice as much. But for that, you get very good optics. They have the same also. They also have the same range of vehicles. So yeah, the Green Jackets are paying twice as much, 10 more, but you get some recon, very good optics. So that'll definitely help, right? Then you've got the Hemmet/Schutzsten. Looks like your basic German rifle squad. Let's have it. So doesn't look like they don't have as good rifles as the recon squads. Yeah, their accuracy isn't too good, although again these guys are pretty cheap at 5. Frags again, you know, they've got quite a lot of. They've got the frags, so they can do a lot of damage if they get close enough, and they've got the Fuchs and the M113GA1. So yeah, this is sort of cheap and careful infantry, I'd say. You know, pretty cheap. It's gonna probably not do too well against enemy infantry, but it's got the frags, which could do a bit of damage, and it can get places fast thanks to the Fuchs. After that, you've got the Jager. Cost twice as much at 10, which is still pretty cheap. But for this, you get a what looks like a Panzerschreck, but it's a blindside RPG, which is more accurate but carries less ammunition than their grenades. It can also fire faster, so they can do more damage per second. And their G3A3s are a bit more accurate, so they'll be hitting the target a bit more. Apart from that, not much difference. They have the same range of vehicles open to them, so the Jaeger is sort of like a better Fuchs. You know, not as expensive as the British infantry, not as cheap as this, but they do more damage. It's sort of halfway between the two. Then we've got the Lad Blowpipe. So this is a dedicated anti-aircraft team for the British. Their assault rifles are the same as their regular British infantry, but they carry a lot less ammunition, so they can, you know, fight as well as regular British infantry, but they'll run out of ammo faster. And they've had their bazookas replaced by the blowpipe SAM, as you can see there. 6 missiles, but this isn't a very good SAM unit. As you can see, they only cost 5, so it's got a pretty bad range, pretty bad accuracy, and the HE power isn't anything to be excited about. So these guys are probably going to miss a lot, and then you know, the packed helicopters aren't even going to notice when they're hit, because they tend to be more armoured than NATO ones. So this is a pretty bad unit. I wouldn't really recommend buying this. And they've got the Sackerson and the Spartan to get them around the place. Then you've got the Lad Red Eye, which is the American version. They cost 10, so I'm expecting a bit of an improvement. And so the rifle has more ammunition, but it's got less accuracy, so they aren't as good when they're firing, but they can fire for longer. And they're a bit more accurate with their missiles, nothing to be excited about, and they can fire a bit further away, but only about 100 meters, which isn't much when you're dealing with helicopters. Yeah, I think what you're paying more for, you're paying the extra 5 for the US to get their range of vehicles. You've got this, you know, you've got a whole range of stuff you can equip these guys with. If we pay another 10, we get upgraded the Stinger. So their missiles replaced with the Stinger. It has a bit more range at about 2,500 and a lot more accuracy. So these guys probably are the only, you know, we're just starting to have a chance of hitting something at this point. So these guys are probably going to hit most of the time. 8's quite accurate. No other difference between the two. So yeah, I'd probably recommend buying the Stingers, because, you know, 20 isn't too much to pay for an infantry unit that's going to be taking down helicopters that start at like 50 at the minimum when you're dealing with packed. So I'd forget the Keeper AA infantry. They're just not going to be doing much. Stick with these guys. And you've got the wide range of vehicles again to choose between. Okay, now we go back to the French. Another rifle squad. Looks a bit surprised, but anyway. So this is a 10 equipped infantry. They've got that submachine gun rather than a proper rifle, But they do have the bazooka, so this is probably just the only reason you'd buy these guys if you're interested in the bazooka. This is probably the cheapest French unit to have that bazooka. 700-meter range, 4 accuracies. It's not good, but it might get the job done. You know, when you're in that kind of range, bazookas tend to hit. Usually there isn't much room for error, similar to the mortars. You've got the AP power of 10 and 6 rockets, so yeah, these guys are probably only useful for their bazookas. Don't even bother thinking that the SMG is going to do much. It's got a lot of ammo, so if somehow they can fight back, they'll fight back for a while, but these guys are going to die pretty quickly, I guess. But, you know, they've got the French, you know, the standard French infantry transports, the VAB and the MX. Upgrade to the Legion FAMAS, and you get upgraded to an assault rifle and a better version of this bazooka, but they cost 10 more. Probably go for this one just because, you know, that submachine gun is going to do a lot. The bazooka won't be helpful if they start sending infantry your way because they know your guys suck. These in FAMAS seem to do quite a good job. And let's compare them to the Soldiers FAMAS. So they cost 20. Soldiers FAMAS cost 10. That's interesting. I think it's because their rifles are less accurate. So the Legion FAMAS, that's it. They've got accuracy 10. So these guys are very accurate with their rifles, so they'll do more damage than the Soldiers FAMAS, but they cost twice as much. I'd probably just stick with the Soldiers FAMAS. I'd probably forget the Legion FAMAS and use the Legion if I wanted some keep bazookas. Then we've got the Panzer Grenadier. These guys are quite an interesting unit because they've got the sort of German assault rifle, but they got 10 accuracy, so these guys can, you know, fight very well against infantry. And they've also got the basic 80 game Milan F1, you know, good power, and the accuracy is 5, so it's not bad. So these guys are sort of all in a sort of a combination of rifle squads and dedicated 80 km infantry, but they pay the price because they're 30, which is quite expensive. But they do have a good range of vehicles. They've got the Fuchs, the Marder, all the way up to the Marder 183, so they can get it, and the M113. So they've got a decent range of vehicles, and they can deal with any land target. You know, tanks. They can hit with the 80 km infantry. They can do quite a good job with the G3. So we've got now the British paratroopers. So standard British rifle looks like. Let's compare it. Nope, it's a better rifle, more accurate and does a bit more damage. Not much though. And they've got the standard bazooka. Do they cost any more? They cost twice as much as the Fusiliers. I'm guessing you're paying for the upgraded. Yeah, so you're paying 10 more for a better rifle as well. No, so that's it. Basically, you're paying for 10 more, so their rifle's a bit better, and you can equip them with the Sacrosan and the Lynx. I don't think the regular infantry. No, the regular infantry have the Lynx as well. Not really sure what's the advantage of paratroopers over regular rifle squad. You know, 10 more for a tiny bit more accuracy and HE power probably isn't much, and the Fusiliers have a better range of vehicles to choose from. And we've got the Rangers. So these guys are fairly expensive at 25, but they've got the M16 assault rifle with a bit more accuracy and I think a tiny bit more HE power, and they're equipped with the basic SAM Red Eye, but it's got accuracy 8, so these guys clearly got some training rather than dedicated Red Eye infantry. So these are quite expensive, but you know, they're good. They're quite good. So the range is quite bad at 2,200 meters, but they're quite accurate. So it's like the Igla for the Warsaw Pact. You know, the range isn't good, but if a helicopter gets into that range, they could probably take it down, and they can fend off any infantry that the helicopter might have been carrying, I guess. Rangers also have a pretty good. Actually, no, they've got only expensive vehicles. They can either travel in helicopters or the Bradley IFV. They can't be transported in basic vehicles, so you know, these guys will be pretty expensive to transport onto the battle, which could be a bit of a problem if you just want the Rangers and not their vehicles. So let's move on to the standard US rifleman. M16 standard story, not as accurate, but you got the ammo, quite a lot of it. Basic bazooka that'll do you damage if a tank gets in the range, but out of it it won't do a thing. And like they can be transported in basic M113s, Bradleys, Hueys, and Blackhawks. So yeah, it's same kind of story with the riflemen. You know, they're a decent infantry. They've got, you know, they've got no strength, but no real weakness. But the soldiers from Mass are probably better overall. Then you got the Stoper. Now this is the only NATO engineer squad. The French stuff, and they're the only ones that can make up the flamethrowers. So they've got the bolt action rifle, which is gonna do quite badly in fighting with infantry. Frag, it's quite accurate, but it is very little damage, so it probably won't do much either. And the flamethrower, which isn't that good either. I probably wouldn't use these guys. Flamethrowers aren't good enough, and that's a pretty basic rifle. But you know, you can transport them in the VAB or the AMX, so I think the best thing these guys would be used for would be a sort of attacking the enemy's FOBs. You know, use the VAB to sneak them around to the enemy's VOB, and then I think the flamethrowers are quite good at burning buildings down, so could be an interesting strategy to use, but guess I wouldn't use these in most games. And finally, the SAS Special Forces. So they're pretty much the same as the Delta Force, but I think a bit worse. So yeah, basically there's a combination between the Delta Force and the Rangers. They cost 25. They've got the flashbang grenade, which is good for stunning enemies. They're quite accurate with their rifles, and they've got a lot of ammunition, and they've got the blowpipe, and they're a bit more accurate with it than the other stuff. And they've got the good optics as well. I'm not sure, do Delta Force have optics? I forgot to check that out. Yeah, they do have optics. So yeah, pretty much they're a sort of combination between the Delta Force and the Rangers, but they cost the same as the Rangers. I'm not sure what kind of. So yeah, they're better at infantry combat than the Rangers, but not as good as the Delta Force. And they can be transported only in the links. So you've got the basic transport helicopter and the armed transport helicopter. So that's interesting. They've got a helicopter with rocket pods in it, whereas the Delta Force don't. So if the Delta Force needs any fire support, they'd have to bring in their own helicopters, whereas the SAS don't if you use the Lynx 87. And it's faster than the Delta Force. This is stuff apart from their Blackhawk, which costs 5 less, but it doesn't have rocket pods. So there you go. I think that's the summary of the NATO Infantry. That's the end of the archive. Thank you and goodbye.